the school board. You know, I have an open mind about all these issues. I didn't really come to this meeting with a lot of information, and being an elected official as well, I understand how tough it is for you guys to stand up here in front of a crowd that's really not on your side. And so I came with an open mind. I'm finding that I'm coming away with more questions than I had when I arrived. So I'll try to keep this short, but one question I have is regarding not knowing where you are in terms of property lines and so forth. Could we stipulate, Sheriff Philp, that that's really, there's no reason for that anymore with the county GIS and the advent of handheld?
I would say from our standpoint, we're pretty good at figuring out where we're at when it's our operation. So I would think that that should be a very, very slim chance in today's world.
Okay.
It's relatively easy with a GPS and a computer terminal to figure out exactly where you are. I do have a Google Earth overlay that has parcels on it. Unfortunately, it's not extremely accurate. There's in places probably 150 to a 200 foot error. And the other problem is then taking that information out into the field. I do not currently have any way of accessing the internet when I'm in the field. So
that's really funny.
I'm not saying that technology does not exist. It's just I don't have it. And so it becomes significantly more difficult for me to find out exactly whose property I'm on when I'm out in the field. There are very few fences. There are no address numbers in those cases. Every once in a while I make a mistake and we knock on the wrong door.
Well, I've been land surveying this area for a long time. I'm out by myself in a lot of these same areas that you guys are going to. You know, I never have any problem because before I go out, I make it a point to know where I am. There's no reason why you can't have hard copy maps with GIS information on. Every realtor here has access to those, and they in fact go out and do surveys based on the GIS information they have. So my suggestion would be to kind of stave off some of the complaints that you have here is that you go to Dave Ryan in the survey department, find out how to get hard copies. When you have a warrant like this, it's a simple matter to get a hard copy to go out and do it.
Well, the overlay I have came from Chinmaya Lewis, and it's basically generated the same way. Unfortunately, what we found is it's not as accurate as it needs to be. It's the same overlay that's used, at least I believe, that's used on the county's.
We can talk about the details of this later. You can get topographic maps off of MapTech, any commercially available program, and put the property lines on them. It's not difficult to do that if you take the time to do it, if it's important enough for you to do it. I mean, I'm not going to argue about this with you.
You're right.
Okay, it's a matter of priorities, is what I'm saying. And it's worth it for you to stand up here in front of an entire community and tell people that you don't know where you are. I would suggest I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but this is a matter of priorities. And I'd be glad to volunteer some time to teach you how to do it.
I'll take it.
And talking about priorities in terms of tax money as well, it goes back to, I think, something Supervisor Johnny said about where the money comes from for this, and I understood him to say it's from the general fund. That's a decision that supervisors make. I live 5 miles up Alder Point Road. The only thing that's keeping the brush down in the gutters on Alder Point Road is my side view mirror along with every other Now, I understand that this is getting out of your purview, but most of these people in this audience associate you guys with government. You know, being on the school board, I understand that. I've had to sit in front of an angry crowd trying to explain to parents and teachers and students why we're sending layoff notices to half of the teachers in our district. I know this has nothing to do with you, but in people's minds, they do associate they lump everything together. And if you're having 6 sheriff's deputies accompanying you on a code violation situation, they wonder who's setting the priority. So my point is that each one of you as a civil servant is responsible for perceptions that the public have regarding elected officials. That's my opinion.
Yes!
The only thing I can say in response to that is I do the vast majority of inspections by myself. I go out with the sheriff's department maybe once a month. I go out in the woods by myself 3 or 4 times a week. So
Well, that's information that I think everybody here needs to know. If these cases on Elk Ridge and the Wood Ranch possibly, and stories about dogs getting beat up and so forth, this is why these people are in this room, is because that's the perception that they have. And I think that's something that needs to be dealt with, is that perception, even though it's not maybe in your purview. I had another simple point. Pre-notice, yes. That I don't understand, because again, as a surveyor, as somebody just like utility people, PG&E, Verizon, Blue Star Gas, all of us who have to go out in these neighborhoods, and they are neighborhoods. This is not a war zone down here. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I get the feeling, the mixing in of a code violation situation with growing marijuana. I don't understand that. These are neighborhoods with people, some of whom may be growing marijuana, some are not.
We have kids
all
and families
need to get together and work together. And these are neighborhoods. And when you go in to a neighborhood like this, with the perception that you're going to find marijuana no matter what, and that everybody in the area probably has some role in growing marijuana, which obviously is growing commercial marijuana, you're incorrect. And somebody mentioned Ken Swithenbank. I don't know if he's here today or not. He's in charge of an area half the size of the state of Rhode Island. The only way that he's able to go out and deal with some of these issues is because people trust him to be fair for the most part. He knows who they are. And when other people in county government go into an area and cause problems, obviously that's the perception here, it erodes his ability to do his job. So that's another issue.
I'll assume there was a question in there somewhere.
I'm not up here simply to ask questions.
I understand.
I'm making a statement from my point of view.
And as I mentioned, I'm in the woods at least 2 days a week. 3 days a week is more common. And those are done with either letters or phone calls ahead of time. In fact, in Tillow Hill area, the last 10 or 12 inspections I've done in that area, I haven't even contacted these people and asked for consent. They've called me, they know I'm working on this project, and they asked me to come out and inspect their property, and we set up a time and we do it together. And that's the way the vast majority of the inspections that code enforcement do are done. And actually, I do that down this morning. I did an inspection this morning on Schmidt Ranch that was set up after the Humboldt CPR meeting of the 19th.
So the problems that are causing all these people to be in this room really are the exception to the rule. And I think that's important information.
That's correct.
And it sounds like you are not the officer on most of those problem cases. John Desideer is. Oh, you said you weren't.
I didn't write those warrants, but I was there.
Okay.
On
Thank you very much.
Were you on Elk Ridge?